Welcome to Expanding Truth. I'm your host, kind of better with the E instead of O. This is actually day 3 of our Atheist Week, where we respond to the best arguments for atheism. So, we have Michael Tooley today. He's going to give his best arguments for atheism, and obviously atheism is the belief that God does not exist. So all of his arguments should follow up by, therefore God does not exist. So without further ado, let's get straight into his arguments.
Other direction. Do you have affirmative arguments for why atheism is a more legitimate worldview?
Yes, I think there are a number of arguments. There are 4 that I think are quite interesting. First of all, I would argue that atheism is the default position. That's based upon the idea that when you survey the alternatives, you have a large number of equally likely alternatives, and theism is only one of those.
Okay, so his first argument is that atheism is the default position. This is actually not an argument for atheism, so I'm not going to address this in this video. So let's move on to our next argument.
A second argument focuses upon the sorts of minds that we're acquainted with, right? And I think there's good evidence that in the case of human beings and other animals, the mind is the brain, there's no immaterial substance, right? And so there's an argument from that to the conclusion it's unlikely that God exists.
Okay, so his next argument is that the mind does not exist, and if God existed, we would have a mind and a brain, but the mind and the brain are the same thing. He said we would have a soul if God existed, and I believe that's true. Obviously, I'm not a neuroscientist, so I don't really know too much about this area, but I know some people like Eric Hernandez and Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy know a lot about this stuff, and they defend arguments such as the argument from identity, the argument from intentionality, identity through change argument, the argument from free will, and much, much more. So please go check out their videos if you want to know all the evidence for a mind. So this argument does not hold whatsoever. Alright, Tooley. Alright, give us some good arguments.
Another argument, which in a way is a version of the argument from evil, but it's a specialized version. And it's an argument from the hiddenness of God. And it says basically that the existence of God is much less evident than it could be. And that's not a good thing, and that provides us with a reason for concluding that God does not exist.
So his next argument is about the hiddenness of God. Why is God so hidden? Why doesn't he reveal himself? Okay, so first of all, it would be impossible to actually see all of God because God is an incorporeal being, in other words, immaterial being, so we can't see all of God because he's invisible, but he actually has and does reveal himself through Jesus, miracles, and much more. Imagine I'm walking down the road, I look down and I see this. I see some leaves. I've never seen a tree in my entire life. I don't know what these are. I look to someone and I say, "Hey buddy, what is this? This is insane." And he looks at me and he says, "Bro, that's from a tree." And I say, "Come on man, we know that trees don't exist because if trees existed, it would have evidence for its existence." Don't you see the point? In the same way that we know a tree exists because of its leaves, we can know that a creator exists because of creation. It's not that hard. It's so obvious that a creator exists because of creation. It's so obvious that a tree exists because of leaves.
Argument, the one I think is most important, is the argument from evil, which focuses upon suffering and deaths of innocent people in the world and argues that the existence of God is unlikely.
Okay, so his final argument is the argument from evil, which is the most popular argument throughout atheistic worldviews. And this is actually probably the best argument, and I actually covered it in my last video when I was responding to Michael Shermer, so please go check that out. Please go check that out. Thank you all for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot from it. I certainly learned a lot. Please subscribe to this channel to expand the truth, and if you subscribe to the channel, then the truth will be expanded. Please stay tuned for day 4.